Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today I thought we will go over some of the stuff in the update direct hit. We've obviously gone over some of the other changelogs, but we haven't actually looked at direct hit itself. After looking at the data mines and also the bug fixes of direct hit, I think it's time to actually get into the meat and gravy of it. It was obviously quite a large update with many different changes. So far, I've been able to get myself the BV and also a bunch of the Japanese vehicles and the Shackleton, and so far the gaming experience has been pretty good. The only issue is the sounds that we've seen, but hopefully that gets fixed over time. Let's get into the different parts of the changes when it comes to the update. So the first part is obviously a bunch of map changes. We had the new alternate history mission of Operation Honolulu added, mainly to the aircraft missions. And then of course Spaceport and Breslau. I haven't actually got on Spaceport yet. I haven't seen it once. I've seen Breslau twice. Normally fought around the center and the north. Overall it seems okay. I need more experience on the map itself. The catchment areas for these spawns are quite big, but I think that's needed because there aren't too many ways out of the spawns and you don't want people spawn camping too early. So overall Breslau seems good, and I wish I could get more experience when it comes to the spaceport. Now when it comes to location and mission updates, so for aircraft missions, they've completely reworked a version of Operation Dover and also Operation Krimsk. They've also moved some of the alternate history missions, the Afghanistan, Berlin, Guam and Spain, to the ranked airfield system and updated the mission logic to the new format as well, so basically bringing them into line with all of the other missions that we have. And also hangers in the mission Operation Raw, they've also got themselves a logic update, an addition of the ground vehicle presets now on different ranks. There will be different vehicles in columns, so mission design changes for better balance. This is something that, first of all, there's a bunch of spelling mistakes in this changelog, just to let you know. And also at the same time, yeah, they've changed a bunch of the AI, which is kind of interesting. On some of the missions, they're actually much more realistic, you know, being stuff like M19s or M42s. They actually have realistic DMs instead of just being able to pop them or get popped by them, depending on how much damage they're doing. Also, they've changed a bunch of enduring confrontation stuff, so the amount of HP for bombing bases has been reduced for all mode missions, so it should be easier to kill bases. And then also, a lot of missions have had very similar changes to them. So basically changes to location to better accommodate the airfields, changes to position of roads to avoid intersection with airfields, new possible locations for airfields, number of simultaneously active bases for bombing has been increased to 5, and then also number of available base positions has been doubled. This is for Sicily, Sengzhou, 46, then Zhengzhou. Also Afghanistan and Vietnam, and Sector Normandy as well. There is a few other changes depending on the maps as well, but nothing as huge as the ones which were talked about. So a lot of mission changes, especially for enduring confrontation, but for me the main ones is the fact that we have more maps when it comes to aviation, and also they've changed how a lot of them actually work, giving the new mission logic system to them. And I think this system is better just because it means that you still have the PvP aspect, but also at the same time there are other ways of winning the match, and normally in these settings it's a little bit more balanced instead of one team just winning every time if you let the tickets bleed out. One of the large things about this update is they've changed a ton of different vehicles, meaning that these vehicles in themselves have a lot of different characteristics. Starting off with the ground stuff, the T-62M1 now has 2 more rounds in its ammo capacity, so going from 40 to 42. The BMP-3 as well, its main and auxiliary armament layout has been modeled similar to the BMD-4. The 30mm gun is now considered the main gun, and the 100mm as the auxiliary. We'll have to see how that screws with stabilizers, and also how it's going to work with the keybinds, because one of the problems with the BMP-3, BMD-4, and BMP-2M is they all have different keybinds keybinds, or at least used to, and hopefully now it's a little bit more standard. The M60 AMBT, the parameters and ammunition load of the 25mm LW25 cannon has been clarified. The muzzle velocity has been changed from 800 to 400, and the HEDP shell has been added to the ammunition load. It's lost half of its muzzle velocity. That's a pretty large change, actually. The M48 Super, unfortunately, it has lost its commander's thermal imager, which is very sad for it, but it still should have all the other features to make it quite fun. The Contrario, the power supply scheme of automatic cannons, has been changed from magazines with 12 rounds to belts with 160. So the total ammunition load now is 640. This is actually a huge change for the vehicle. Basically, this means that you don't have to reload the guns. The guns are just, as long as you fire them, if you run out of ammo, you're completely out of ammo. You don't reload. The problem with the Contrario that it had before is the fact that you had these really short clips. So you had these small windows to be able to destroy stuff. Now you can use it much more like a whirlwind and destroy stuff like that. The SK105A2 and the JPZ-KA2, they've been given neutral gear turning. These vehicles are actually really fun. I've been playing the French one and doing extremely well in it. I think it'll actually go up in BR at some point. It has basically everything you would want apart from a stabilizer. It has literally, scouting, smoke, artillery, APFSDS, thermals, really good reload with the autoloader. It has everything, right? Even survivability because its armor isn't the best. But yeah, I'll be very surprised if this thing doesn't actually go up. The Baglet Panzer 57, it's been increased by 1.5 tons, but the engine power has also been increased from 600 to 720. So even though it's a bit heavier, it should be able to move around a little bit better. The Elephant Mark II and also TTD, the South African vehicles, they get access to ESS, which will help them quite a lot. And the Ratel 20, the 20mm gun feed, has now been specified. Now a player is able to choose from 2 ammo belts ready to fire. So basically a quick switch system. This is awesome. This will help the Ratel 20 quite a lot. The Ratel 20, in my opinion, is probably one of the weaker machines in its bracket, but this will hopefully help us. Main issue with the Ratel is it's quite slow, and also it doesn't have any armor. Maybe if it had a slightly more beefy engine, it could be a little bit more useful. The Roycat ZA35, so the AA, they've actually increased its weight from 26.5 to 32 tons, and the horizontal aiming speed has been reduced from 90 to 45 degrees per second. So that's quite a huge nerf to the ZA35. It is still a very good vehicle though. Still works incredibly well, and it will be good at what it does. It has a fantastic radar as well. The Mars 15, a bug with missing autocorrection on the laser rangefinder data, has been fixed. Well, that's good. Comparing like the Mars to the SK, I've really struggled in the Mars. I don't know what it is about it. It's probably the 90mm. The 90mm does so much less damage than the 105 when it comes to its heat and also APFSDS, and definitely hurts quite a lot because of it. The ARL-44, it's lost a bunch of gun depression, unfortunately. It's gone from 10 to 5, so that actually hurts it quite a bit because of the fact that, the armor is flat, so you want to try and angle it as much as possible so you don't get panned. Now it's going to be harder to do. They've also changed the ACL-1 ARL-44. The shell characteristics on the AP have been specified, so the weight has been reduced from 6.5 to 6.4, and the velocity has been increased from 700 to 715 meters per second, and that's obviously changed its armor penetration. This is nice to the machine. The main issue with that, though, is the vehicle, the ARL. It's great at punching through things, but actually killing them, it has a problem with. Whereas a lot of other vehicles have like APC-BC or APHE or APC-BC with HE filler. With the only AP on the ARL-44, it means that you can maim targets really easily, but you can't actually kill them a lot of the time. They're able to run away. The Tiger E, Tiger H1, Brumbar VK4501, the heavy tank number 6, and the Tiger Animal which is basically the furry tiger. Armor of the driver's observation device has been redesigned. The parts have been transferred to volumetric armor, and a separate section of optics has been added, and the height of the viewing slot has been reduced. So finally, that spot shouldn't be a strength, I suppose, is the way to put it, because it used to be one which used to troll shells all over the place. Now it should be pretty similar to the other areas of armor. The Jagdtiger, the armor on the gun mantler has been reworked and changed to volumetric. Same with the gun mantler on the Tiger 2P. This push towards volumetric armor is very good, and hopefully it continues. The Tiger 2P, H, the SLA, the 105 as well. The armor on the Ball machine gun mount has also been changed to volumetric. So they're basically taking all the problem areas which have like weird ricochets and weird bounces with the new volumetric shells and even the old ones, and replacing them. This is good. All the Centurions, so the Centurion Mark III, the STR-V81, the Shot Cal Delay, the Carnarvon, the STR-V81 RB52, and the other one for Sweden, the Centurion Mark V. The armor on the gun mantlets has been reworked and is changed to volumetric. Basically, there's a ton of vehicles which have had their armor, or at least parts of their armor, changed to volumetric. We've talked about this before, how this is like an ongoing process, and once the process finishes, this is going to be wonderful, but it's getting there. Vehicles which have had certain parts of them change, so the Chieftain Mark V, Mark III, Mark X, the Vickers Mark VII, the XM1 GM and Chrysler, Leopard 2 PL, T55AM, T62M1, the Ariete, the Leclerc S1 and S2, the LVKV 9040C, and also the STRF 9040C, the Challenger Mark II and Mark III, the Challenger 2 and Challenger 22F, the IKV 91, IKV 91 105, and, well, actually, no, not those ones, but the rest of them. So, if you play these vehicles, or if you do fight them, make sure to have a look at them, and make sure to sort out, where you shoot these vehicles, or where you want to get shot. So the IKV-91 and IKV-91-105, they get their commander's sight. That's pretty cool for those vehicles. They're actually really fun, those ones. If you haven't played them, I highly recommend them. They work really, really well in the game. The Tunguska, Automatic, Flak-Rad, and Flak-Panzer, they get optical air target tracking mode has been added. So we're going to have to see how that affects the vehicles. Obviously gives them another string to their bow. They're also already very quite good, but now they're going to be slightly better. The T-25 has lost its vertical stabilizer, so that kind of sucks for the vehicle. It's probably going to go down in the BR because of this, because at least in my opinion, the main reason it kept going up is because of that stabilizer. The reason for the removal is that the first pilot prototype of the tank was equipped with this stabilizer. The tank in the game is the second pilot prototype to which the stabilizer wasn't installed, so there you go. That's the reason for doing that. The number for Fahrzeug, the horizontal guidance speed has been changed from 8 to 15, so that'll be a little bit more useful now. The STB1, this one got a ton of changes to it. So the first one is they improved the fire rate of the 105mm to a standard, so it now goes to 9 shots per minute instead of 7. For some reason, the STB1 always was lower, higher in reload compared to its competition. Now it's been standardized, and its HES shell has been replaced. So it's gone from an M393A2 hash to a Type 75 hash, and also will now be available by default. But it did lose its heat FS, the M456, so that sucks for the SDB, because that was one of the major reasons why it was pretty good. It still is really good at 7.7. We'll have to see if it now goes up with the new Type 74 added to the game. The Comet and also the Iron Duke, the fire rate has been changed from 10.2 to 8.1 rounds per minute. That sucks for it, but it still should be completely fine. Those rounds pen a lot. You can normally annihilate a vehicle with the first set of rounds, and then finish it off with the second. The Leopard 2PL, 2A4, 2A5, 2A6, the STRV 121, 122, 122 PLSS, so basically all the Leopard 2 models that we have. The vertical guidance speed has been changed from 20 to 40 degrees per second, okay. So the guns are going to lay way better on targets for those vehicles. The T-72B, the T-72B 1989, and also the T-72B3, the gun declination angle has been changed from minus 6.22 to 5.67, so they've lost a bit of gun depression. That sucks for them. Because generally those vehicles kind of need as much gun depression as they can because they're not as good as other tanks that sit around those BRs when it comes to the gun depression. The fire rate of the Dicamax has been changed. It's gone from 4.6 to 6. This is a balancing change, as they put it in, and the Sturemil also has gone from 3.3 to 4 shots per minute, which is also a balancing change. So the Dicamax and the Sturemil have gone down in BR so many times because they are not very good. It's as simple as that. And they also got heavily affected by the volumetric shell addition to the game, and now they're trying to decrease their reload to balance them. It's not going to work unless they make them like standard to like 75s, which I highly doubt they're going to do. But yeah, it's interesting to see. The AMX-13 FL11, it's changed its fire rate from 8 to 10 shots per minute, which is really nice, so 6-second reload on that thing. It's already a fantastic vehicle, part of a really nice lineup, so I'm looking forward to playing that quite a lot. The Type 89, the Japanese light vehicle, the Type 79 ASM researchable ATGM has been added to the ammunition. The APCR shell has been deleted from the ammunition, and the DM23 shell is now the default one. The power supply scheme for the cannon has been changed. Now it's the same scheme as the Baglet and the STRF 9040. So basically, it'll have a longer clip, and you should be able to switch between shells a little bit easier on the Type 89 if you have access to shells to switch to. Also, the new missile is not great on it. It's basically a proximity HE. It might be okay for dealing with planes, but it's not really good for dealing with anything else. You might as well just use the other missile if you're dealing with vehicles on the ground. The Centurion Mark 1, Mark 3, the STRV 81 with the SS11, the Mark 10, Avery Mark 5, Action X, the FE 4202, the 221, the 81, and the 101. The gunner sight modification has been changed from a variable 4.9 to 6 to a constant 6. Okay, well, not a huge change there for that, for those machines, but that's basically all of the Centurions that we have in the game. The T95 and T28, the sight magnification has been changed from 8 to the default sight. Okay, that sucks. On those machines, no longer snipey, heavy, instead more brawly. The Toldy 2A, the masses, and accordingly the penetration values of the following shells have been clarified. So the 36M shell gets a little bit of increased mass, and same with the 43M shell. So we're going to have to see how that affects the vehicle, if it does in a positive or negative way. The TOW2B, the damage type from the cumulative jets, has been replaced with an impact core. So the armor penetration has been changed from 430 to 100 millimeters, and beyond, the armor effect has been significantly increased. Generally, when it comes to these things, we're going to have to see how this affects overall the TOW2B, especially if we get more vehicles like this. But at least in my testing on the dev server, it acted way more like the build does than the standard TOW2B that was before. But this is much more realistic to what it should act like, which is something that has to be thought of. The Char-25T, the cannon model and used ammunition has been refined. Previously used shells have been replaced by 90mm American shells, so now it has access to the T-33 base, the M71A1, the HE, and then the M82, which is a researchable on the 3rd modification rank. This is a huge positive for the Char-25T. The M82 shell is a really good shell, 490mm at the BR of the Char-25. It just makes the vehicle stronger. It was already pretty strong, now it's even more stronger. The destabilization of the APF-SDS round has been added after impacting side modules of the heavy ERA. So destabilization of the round significantly improves armor durability against hit effect at course angles of 20 to 25 degrees. So basically, Contact 5 and Relic just got stronger. The ESS mechanics operation has been clarified. Now it's impossible to use smokescreens by using ESS modifications when the engine has been destroyed. I mean, that makes sense, right? Because, you know, it's designed to use the exhaust of the engine. The armor parameters for gun barrels on ground vehicles, where the values differed from the previously announced in the major update Extra Strike, have been fixed. Well, that's good. And then parameters for single-shot smoke mortars have been clarified. For the caliber of American and British vehicles, it's 50mm. For Germans, 91. The reload time of 5 seconds for mortars has been added. The M24, the MX-13, M24, the Crusader Mark II, all of them, the M4A3-105, the TPO, the Sherman Mark V, the Challenger, and so on and so forth. Basically, all of the different vehicles that have access to smoke mortars, now the size of them has been clarified, and the reload time has been changed. The physically correct tracks have been added for a bunch of vehicles. Basically, they're continuing with the work of update hot tracks, and hopefully, just like volumetric armor, it'll get to a point where everything has them in the game. And then also, they added a bunch of shell ejection animations to the game as well, which obviously are for a bunch of vehicles, mainly open top ones, and also AA. They all look fantastic. I did a compilation of them on the channel if you want to have a look, and yeah, it's pretty much as simple as that. A lot of ground changes, a lot of additions, and a lot of continued work on many factors in the ground vehicles. They also did a bunch of aviation and also helicopter changes, the main ones basically pertaining to the suspended armaments and how they work. So the first one is the MiG-23M. They added a weapon preset with the R13M1s and also R60s. This has been added to obviously the secondary loadouts. The A109 EOA-2 and also the AB205A1. These have been moved from the attacker helicopter class to the utility helicopter class, so we'll have to see how that affects them when it goes into the future. The ME410A1 and also B1, a bug because of which you could install 250 and 500 kilo bombs right away without modification, research has been fixed. I always wonder if people proofread these things, because that is a rough sentence right there, but I'm glad that they fixed the bug. The B-24D-25CO, the preset with the four 2,000 pounds AN M6682 bombs, has been added to the suspended weaponry, so this thing can now carry 8,000 pounds when it comes to just the big booms. That should be pretty fun. The DB-3B, it's got itself a torpedo. Hell yeah, let's go. Another Soviet machine with a torpedo, always fantastic for naval forces. The Harrier GR1, the Harrier GR3, and Aviate-A, a bug that caused the wing part to hang in the air in some cases when it was torn off, has been fixed. That's always lovely to see. And the A26B10, they've added the 37mm M4 cannon. It's been replaced by the 37mm M9 cannon, so that means that you'll have to spade that thing again. The Scimitar F Mark I, basically, they've changed the name of the Mark II rockets. I also think you now have to modify them, because I saw that there's a modification for them right now. So you're going to have to respade that thing if you need to. The SB2C, the amount of ammunition for the defensive turret has been changed from 2,000 to 1,000 rounds per barrel. Not a huge change for the machine, but still pretty decent. The AH-64D, the AH-1Z, and the AH-64DJP, and also the AH Mark I Apache, all of these basically got changes with their air-to-air missiles. So I'll give you an example with the AH-64D. So the AIM-92 missiles, have been removed from the normal presets and added to the suspended weaponry presets. So they've basically just done that with all of the standard aims or star streaks that you see. So instead of them being attached to the vehicle, they're now attached to the weaponry presets that you bring along. The 37mm M4 cannon, the belt with air ammunition, has been added, so that might be a little bit more useful. They've also changed the Fab 500 M62. The type of explosive mass has been changed from TNT to TGAF5. The weight of the explosive mass has been changed from 325 to 213 kilos, so that's actually lost a lot of its explosive mass. The Fab 250 also loses a lot of its explosive mass. The M62 is going from 149 to 100. The 2000 FN-AN M66A2, they've changed the explosive type from amatol to tritonol. And then the 500 FN-AM M64A, they've increased its explosive mass from 119.7 to 121. So that won't actually make that much of a difference. Also, the Mark M1 540-pound bomb, the explosive mass has been changed from 87 to 105. That's going to be quite a big difference for that machine. For that bomb, sorry. The MK4 Mod 0 gun pod. The weight of the suspended gun pod has been changed from 109 kilos to 630. Okay, so Jesus. So that's gone up by nearly 6 times. So that now should make the vehicle a bit of a chunky monkey when it's got it on. The MiG-21 SMT and MiG-21 MF, both of these got the flare block, so both of these machines now have countermeasures. This should definitely help out the machines at high echelons. The pods themselves look also really nice. The Jaguar A also gets itself some countermeasures on it. And then the Phantom FGR2 and FG1, they get the Skyflash air-to-air missiles, which have been added with a dogfight mode. So I've heard good things about them. I'm going to have to test them myself at some point. The MiG-21 SMT and MiG-21 MF, they've also, the ECM module with flares has been added to them. Same with the Jaguar A. And then the Aviate-A, the presets with flares has been added. I guess 240 of them, at least it did on launch day. I don't know if that's changed. That is insane. And then the F8U2, the flares have been added to that. The F4EJ, now its missiles have been changed from AIM-9Js to AIM-9Ps, and also they've added modifications being required for the 500 kilo bombs on the Arados, which I think is generally okay, since it is, a decent bomb load. The A32A gets chaff pods on it, so we'll have to see how useful that is. The F4Es, they get the AIM-7E2 missiles, so the Americans get a new Sparrow missile too. And the MiG-23Ms, the R-60 missiles have been replaced with R-60Ms, along with the change of modification for research. So the R-60Ms are obviously better than the R-60s. We'll have to see how they do in-game compared to a lot of the other dogfighting machines that are in the game. I know the MiG-23s have been struggling a little bit since their release. We'll have to see if that continues or not. The Seeker telescope for the AGM-65A and B is now stabilized as well, so it should make them a little bit easier to use, especially after all the nerfs that they've given them. They've also changed a bunch of other things, so the display of icons in the modifications menu has been fixed according to the suspended armament for the aircraft. So the Z1007 BIS, the Su-6, PB4Y2, B-24D, A-26, HAK, PV-2D, A-4, and also the Votor, AD-4 and Saab 105. So that won't really change too much, but it just means it's a little bit more clearer. The Fab 500 SV, a bug due to which the full name of the bomb wasn't indicated in some presets, has been fixed. The GSH23L, the composition of ammunition belts on it has been changed, so that might be a positive or a negative depending on where you look from. Basically, the MiG-21 SMT, the MiG-23M, and the MiG-27M, the Su-17M2, and then all of the Mi-24s and the Mi-35. The S-24 rockets have been replaced with S-24Bs, so that should make them a little bit more improved. The separate command added to toggle ballistic computer for cannons or rockets. So now you can, switch between them instead of having them both on or both off at the same time. The helicopter target trackers, radar, and IRST on fighters and missile seekers will now be able to see the hulls of destroyed ground vehicles, which should be quite nice. And the P-60 and P-60M, the interval between launch and inclusion in the control loop of the homing head has been clarified from 0.5 to 0.35, so they should be attentive for a longer set of time. They also did a bunch of basic flight model changes for some planes, mainly Soviet and also Japanese ones. So the Ki-100, 102, the Ki-96, the 102, and also the 108. They fixed a bug which led to an overestimated maximum engine speed. So that kind of sucks with the planes. They're going to lose a little bit of their usefulness, but still should be pretty good. The Ki-61 and also 100 series of aircraft, the aerodynamics of the airframe have been completely reworked. Stall speed, takeoff, and landing speed have been reduced, and the controllability at low and mid speeds have been improved. Landing gear extension speed reduced to 250 km per hour, and available speed of switching flaps to landing position reduced to 230 km an hour. And the optimal horizontal speed for climb and speed haven't changed. So hopefully it shouldn't be too bad for the vehicle. It just means that when you get to use your flaps is slightly different. The I-185s, the effective rebalancing of the aircraft at full throttle, slight nose pulling down effect at full control mode has been specified. Operations of a propeller group at low and mid throttle have been specified. I feel like the I-185, since they were introduced, have gone through so many different changes, especially over the last few years. I'm going to have to try them out again, just to see what they actually fly like. The Tu-2s, all of them, they've adjusted according to the passports of the vehicles. The fuel distribution among tanks has been adjusted. The moments of inertia, depending on the amount of fuel, weapons, and ammunition, have been specified. And the thermodynamics of engines have been improved and refined, with the improved aircraft aerodynamics at high flight speeds, and the airplane takeoff and roll-off are adjusted to according to the airplane flight manual and test report. So they basically just made it more realistic and more historic. The D520, the flight model, has been completely updated according to the current capabilities of the physical model. The polars of wings, fuselage, fin, and propeller blades have been recalculated and refined. The moments of inertia have been clarified. That's probably because it got an updated model, right? That would make sense. The H1 and the UH1, so the Hueys and the Apaches, they overshoot and reverse roll while leveling at horizontal has been fixed for mouse control mode. That's pretty cool. The Jaguar GR1, Jaguar A, and MiG-23M, the mouse control has been improved. Improved aircraft behavior after elevators or spoilers detach, and also introduced a more detailed simulation of the elevators with differential deviation and variable throttle transfer ratio from the stick to the elevators. And also the interface, the information regarding onboard radars and IRST, as well as other sensors, countermeasures, sights, and other capabilities are now available in X-ray mode in the hangar, which we've seen before. That is a huge change and a much, much needed one. Very happy to see that. We've also got a bunch of naval changes. Generally, naval is the one which actually gets the most changes overall, but I think this time ground probably has the most, surprisingly enough. So when it comes to the weaponry stuff, they've obviously added the new weapon control system for naval. The fire direct system has been added for all large artillery ships. The stereoscopic rangefinders, director control towers, and also artillery directors that take the necessary measurements which are separated into independent modules And then the modules in the fire control rooms that create fire solutions, calculations have been added, and the binos have been reworked too. So basically they've just added in a more complete way of directing the fire, which I think is pretty cool. Then you've also got the Setsu, the incorrect designation of the 6.5mm machine guns in the vehicle card has been corrected. Wonderful. The Fairmile C312, the number of on the used ammunition for aft 40mm cannons has been corrected. The Wyoming, its maximum speed has been changed to 21 knots instead of what it was before. The Parizhskaya Kommuna, obviously the Sevastopol, the HE shell has been added for research at the 4th modification. We're going to have to see how useful that machine actually is. It should be up there with some of the better ones at the moment. The 305mm semi-AP round on the 1911 variety, basically the one on the Soviet battleships. The speed drop dynamics have been fixed. They've been made equal to the AP round, so they're going to be similar to the semi-AP. And the armor-piercing values at mid and long range have been changed. And the Poltava has an extra change, meaning that the firing sectors of the 2nd and the 4th gun of the main caliber have been increased, with the USS New Orleans, the Northampton, the Pensacola, and also the Portland. The name of the main caliber guns have been corrected as well. The Aviaire, the Italian machine, it has different torpedo types now. The Acoma also has different torpedo launchers, basically changed to 457s from 553s. The Acoma and the Setsu, the display of the ammo capacity of the auxiliary guns have been fixed, and the S-38B and S-38, the display of the ammo capacity for the 20mm has been fixed. So a few naval weaponry changes, not a huge amount, but a decent one. Then naval modifications and crew skills as well. All ships and boats, in accordance with their classes, receive corrected parameters for smoke screens, launch position, size, and time of effect. Previously, smoke screens might appear in the middle of the hull or far behind, so now, just like ESS, they've been clarified. The Wyoming, the Class B 305mm default HE round has been added. The AP round has been moved to the Research Tier 1, so now the vehicle should be a little bit more easier to spade, even though it is quite hard to do. Then, also, they've changed a bunch of naval characteristics as well, so the shockwave effect on artillery rigs of the open type or with open shields have been fixed. Explosions that occur close to such a unit can disable its calculation with a shockwave, and the display of the components inside the hull on large ships has been fixed as well. The HMS Peacock, the searching radar has been added to it. The Northampton, the davits interfering with the 3rd main caliber turret will now be removed in the battle. That's really nice. And then the Liverpool, the armor material, the shell collars of the main caliber turrets has been corrected as well. The Sionen, the size of the commander's bridge has been reduced, so it's going to be harder to sit on, I suppose. The Southampton, the Liverpool, and the Belfast, the number, shape, and location of the fuel tanks, boiler rooms, and engine rooms have been corrected, so that's actually quite a big change to the overall DM of the machine. The Northampton, the location of the auxiliary cellar has been fixed as well. The Trenton and Raleigh, the shape of the main caliber turret's armor and 20mm Oerlikon shields have been fixed. The Nuremberg, the Köln, and the Leipzig, so the German machines, the shape of the frontal armor plates of the main caliber turrets have been fixed. And the Thunderbolts, the PT-556, the display of the missing 20mm armor shields on the Oerlikon Mark II bow cannon have also been removed. The Northampton, the form and position of the fuel tanks have been fixed. The Southampton, the form of the deckhouse armor has also been fixed. And the Attilio Regolo, the Comandante Megdagli Doro, the torpedo max speed with enabled modification, the torpedo mode has been reduced, and the radar has been added to the Edna as well. So we're going to have to see how that affects all of those machines. And then also some visual stuff has been changed on naval things. So you got the Z-32, the elevator model of the forward main caliber turret has been added. The Candid, the absence of the gun barrel on the main caliber turret in the X-ray has been fixed. The Carl Golster, The models of the armor shields of 20mm units have been corrected, and now you have the Zara and the Polar. The damaged ship condition that caused the hangar cover to disappear at the front of the ship has been fixed. The Polar as well, the missing mooring stanchions have been added. The Jervis, the flag animation, has been fixed, and also the Satsuki, the original unique camo, has been returned. That's pretty awesome. With the Leipzig also having a bug on its visual model fixed. Basically, with the damaged ship, it caused the flag to hang in the air. That's been fixed, and the zones of possible decoration placements have also been expanded, which is really, really nice. With the possibility of hiding coal bunkers in X-ray mode also added to Naval in the hangar, the anti-torpedo bulges and coal bunkers of an enemy ship now disappear in the hit camera after their destruction, and added the display of the countdown time required to exit a queue. They've also removed that one because it didn't work properly. I'm sure they'll add it in when it actually does work properly. They've also changed a few different things when it comes to economy and research. The JU-88A1 and also the A4 have been moved to rank 2, and the HU-111, H6 and H16 have been grouped together. Another thing as well is the HMS Montgomery will become unavailable for purchase after the 21st of September. Obviously, this is because of the rejigging of the reserve area for Naval for the British. So if you're interested in that ship and want something unique, make sure to pick it up before it is removed from the game. They've also changed some customization stuff, so the standard camouflage for post-war Japanese ground vehicles has been changed. You now get the default one-tone camo has been changed. It's a lot darker, it's much more grey-green instead of blue-green now. The two-color and multicolor camouflages have also been corrected, with the requirements to get one-tone post-war camo also been reduced on the vehicle, and the new summer and fall camos have been added, both available for completing tasks or Golden Eagles, which I think is the best way to do it. You know, either you can grind for them or you can just buy them. The forest camouflage for Soviet tanks has also been fixed. The bushes decoration from the camouflage section has been updated, the shape and volume have been changed, and the color correction has been done, and the new bush decorations have been added into the camouflage section, the pine, olive, autumn wood, banana leaves, and straw. I disagree with these additions. I'd rather they reduce these things, but what are you going to do? The new player icons for modern aviation have also been added, basically air-to-air missile kills on them, which is pretty awesome. They've changed some interface stuff as well, so the reticle in the binoculars has been reworked in naval battles. The interface elements in naval vessels, binoculars have been changed, and also part of the unimportant information has been removed or moved under the horizontal reticle scale, so it's a little bit easier to see. The rangefinder range is now tied to the selecting frame on targets in a naval RB battle. The corrected range is now tied to the target selecting frame in the naval RB, with the value shows only the correction entered relative to the rangefinder range. The central cursor circle is hidden in the ship's binoculars. The target selection frame has also been reworked on the vehicle, which is nice. They changed a bunch of game mechanics as well. We basically talked about how the mechanics work when it comes to naval. I think what I'm going to do is I'll do a new video on the whole file control system, how it actually works, how to use it properly, and all of that good stuff. But that's the main mechanic that they've added this time, and it's a big one. You know, you've also got like the guided bombs and all of that good stuff. And also you got a ton of graphical visual effects. Some of them work really well, others don't, and also a bunch of sound changes which have already in the last few days been completely changed because of the fact that they were busted, so that's always good. The graphical changes, they've changed the DLSS stuff, they've supposedly updated it. In my opinion, it looks about the same, but we're going to have to try and give it a bit of an extra go. But basically, they've improved the visuals of stuff like contrails and flare launch. They've improved a lot of lighting stuff, and also improved a lot of penetration and damage stuff as well on top of it. That is pretty much the changelog, apart from the stuff that we covered in the data mines and also previously. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Professor X 1718, Orangetail, Sakoshi Tiger, BRFC 15, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe A, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, and then Kyle Kin, Barine, Lafouche, and also Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.